You heal a lot slower than the other person does. And they tend to, because you heal slower, you tend to project pain onto a person. And they very well may just endure.
Roll me, Mac.
How did you begin the process of forgiving yourself? Well, it took a lot of studying others. It took a lot of listening to lectures. It took a lot of taking a very solid look at myself. And probably what helped me the most was the question posed in the 4 Agreements. It was by Don Miguel Ruiz when he said that your parents gave you everything that they had. What else could they teach you? So if obviously that's the same for my parents, and it's obviously the same for me. It's like, what else could I have taught? I can only give you what I have. And when I started to really digest what that even meant for me, it helped me to give myself a little bit more grace. Even more, give my parents grace, give everyone else grace, set healthier boundaries for myself, but giving people grace and learning to forgive myself for a lot of the stuff that I was not forgiving myself for. Like I was on a very downward spiral just for the simple fact that I felt like I didn't show up for certain things the way that I could have, not because I was afraid, but more so because I didn't know how to. And that was like, the thing was like, oh man, I didn't know. So when it happened, it's like, oh, well, I've created this persona that I have to be there for everything. I had to be there for everyone. And I was driving my own self crazy. It's literally just me versus me in this situation. This isn't about anybody else. This is about me, and whatever anybody else was doing was about them, you know. But I was in my own head. I was in my own mind, and I was my biggest critic. So because I was my biggest critic, I wasn't allowing myself to just be human. I'm not available for love. I'm not available to love. I'm not available to receive love until I become this thing right here. And if I don't achieve it, then I won't ever be. And that's where that's where I found myself in the dark. In the sense of like, I'm not going to be lovable ever. because I'm not able to obtain perfection. And that is the most asinine mentality to have, because none of us are perfect, but all of us are lovable in our own way. It might not be for everybody, don't get me wrong. I don't believe that everyone is for everyone. You know what I mean? But certainly lovable. And it's just finding out in your life what is compatible for you, who is compatible for you, you know. And I think that's the big thing right there. I think it's figuring out what works for you in this life, what's going to complement your life, what's going to bring peace. And in the spirit of forgiving myself, I didn't believe I was good enough for anything, you know, and that's where I stayed. So I just was going to go on a downward spiral. I was going to be around people who were not good for my mental health, and I was going to continuously keep going down and putting myself in positions of being in things that are not beneficial for me. But when I really just honed in on what the 4 agreements meant for me, and really that statement is like, what else could you do? What else could you have done? That's all you knew. But to detach, to separate yourself from yourself, this ego that is, for you to have an ego death and to be able to look at yourself from another perspective, from a detached perspective, and just being able to look at yourself like you're taking care of someone else, and being able to have that grace and wanting to take care of little me, little Rome. And it's like, man, you do a lot. You do a lot, and you just feel like that's not enough. And that is just ego, because ego's never satisfied. And you just gotta forgive yourself. It was time. It was time. It was time to recognize that I was just as human as everybody else. And those people around me weren't necessarily the best. They didn't know any better themselves. Otherwise, they would do what probably I know. You know what I mean? And that's really that's how to me, that's how that unfolds. It's like they're not aware of that knowledge, just as much as I'm not aware of whatever knowledge that they have that works for them. But to have grace with yourself, and knowing that you're going to fuck up again, but it gets easier from time to time. You're not as hard as you were on yourself, and really seeing how unimportant that you are in the scheme of like making mistakes. You believe your mistake is bigger than anybody else's, and it isn't. It's just a mistake. It's just something that happens, and there's mistakes being made all across the world, and you are one of a billion people. So why is your mistake any bigger than the other billion? That's the question that must be had, the question that must be asked to oneself. Nothing is as big as it is until we decide it is to be. You know what I mean? Like the Super Bowl is big to a certain amount of people because that's what they've built up in their mind, that this is a big game. There are some people that go to Super Bowl parties and they're like, all right, what are we here for? You know what I'm saying? Like for them, it's all perspective and what we decide to make this thing to be in our lives. Is it going to be something major in our lives that's going to affect us and prevent us from moving forward, and we're just going to be woe is me? Or am I going to be indifferent about it and just do the best that I can on the next time, you get back on the horse? And that's a question that must be had. There are some people who do not believe in unconditional love. There are people that believe in conditional love. There are people that believe in the ability to not make a mistake. I call them delusional, but yes, we make mistakes. People do make mistakes. It's just all about deciding what mistakes are going to be viable for your life. That's the question. It's not about perfection. It's about what you're willing to tolerate. I just really had to forgive myself for not knowing what I didn't know at the time, and having grace with that. Because if I knew better, I would have done something differently. I would have. And I think that's what eats at us. You know, that's what ate at me. That's what she said. And I really wanted to just not live. I just didn't want to move on. Not so much like dying or anything. I didn't want to do anything anymore because I felt like because I'm flawed. Now I'm not lovable. Now I'm not able to do anything. There's going to be abandonment. Everything. It's just the worst parts of your mind coming together in one space because you made a mistake. And it's just how one was raised. If anything, like something that was taught, but it's all right for you to make mistakes. And you want to make mistakes. You want to try. You want to go out there and give it your best effort and then learn what works and what doesn't work. And the people that aren't afraid to make mistakes tend to get further than those who are afraid to make mistakes. They have the courage to go out and try different things. They have the courage to fail. And with trying so much and failing, there has to be forgiveness for oneself. And I had to continuously learn how to forgive oneself over and over and over again. And not look to my parents, for their validation, not as an adult. When you get caught up in that lifestyle, man, like a kid, like you're trying to get your parents' validation, and you don't realize that your parents are going through their own struggles with trauma themselves, man. And if you don't know that, you will make whatever's going on about them about you, and it will fuck you up for a very long time if you are not able to separate that and give them grace for whatever it is that they're going through, and that everybody's got to worry about themselves. So we help each other by helping ourselves and working on ourselves, and not projecting our pain, not putting our happiness in another person's hands, including your parents, man. Yeah, it might have been their duty as, when we were kids to kind of, be, responsible for making us happy or whatever, giving us things that we thought made us happy and shit like that. But when you become an adult, man, it's fair game, Sure, it'd be nice to have, parents that have empathy, but you're not entitled to that. That's not promised to you. But you can learn how to show compassion to others based off of your own experience of that shit, something you might have needed when you were younger. And even now, to see yourself with, at your kid's age, and wanting to be like, man, what did I need when I was that age? That type of thing, and wanting to provide that for them, and being able to forgive yourself for what you didn't know when you were their age, and hopefully being able to help them as they get older to forgive themselves. I'm going down that path of trying to be perfect. I believe that's something that we all could use. I believe there's just a place for love to thrive amongst those that, like I said, that you value, man, to not allow a person to beat themselves up and catch them when they start to beat themselves up over the most minuscule shit. And we're all guilty of it. And it's like that process, though, again with that statement, it's like, what else could you have done? What else could they have given you? What else could your parents have given you? They can only give you what they had. And that's all you've done. You've given people what you had. So to give more, you have to learn more. And how do you do that? You look at what has been effective and what has been ineffective. Not necessarily right and what's been wrong, but what's been effective and ineffective when it comes to the sense of like mental health, communication, social skills, and a list of other things that we can do to better our situation and not so much complain about it, but be at peace. Have grace with others. That's something I try to keep in mind, man. But I do my best to not go around people that tend to project their pain. Avoid that unhappy and the unlucky. Once it's recognized, yeah, you gotta get up out of there. I mean, I can forgive you for me, but I don't have to be the fuck around. I don't have to be around you, and that's another thing. Setting those boundaries with that. But that is how I believe I began the process of forgiving myself. What do you make of the concept that you could love someone but not meant to be together? Yes, very true, very true. Everyone that you love is not meant to be with you, in a sense of like long-term, what have you, in your life period, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of people from our past that we have a love for, but there's a reason why their ass is in the past, you know? And that's just where we were at the time, and based on where we both were at the time, it just wasn't meant for a long-term ordeal for us. But I believe it's a very accurate statement that you can love someone and not meant to be with them. And that's where it goes to, again, compatibility. Compatibility is it's not really something that we think about when those rose-colored lenses are on. You know, when we ignore red flags. We're so caught up in the crush moment. When you have a crush on somebody, you ignore red flags, they say. And taking the time, once all that stuff, once all the dust settles, the honeymoon phase, as they call it, once that goes away, and then recognizing, like, yeah, I really don't care for that shit. I don't. Yeah, that shit ain't gonna work for me long term. And you keep that in mind, and give grace. You're still in the process of healing, even while dating, right? And it's just allowing a person to essentially heal on their own. Now, there's different stages of, you find yourself in different stages of healing. And sometimes you heal a lot slower than the other person does. And they tend to, because you heal slower, you tend to project pain onto a person. And they very well may just endure. They might endure it. They practice a lot of patience with you. But on a long scheme of things, seeing that this is just, you decided that this is the person that you're going to be, it may not necessarily be beneficial for that person in the long run. And it's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough pill. It's something tough to accept. But once you accept the current, that's where peace can be found. And the decision is then made whether or not this is for me anymore. And sometimes that answer is it's not. It's not for me anymore. And it comes a time when you're going to have a conversation where we gotta decide whether or not this is, letting you know that this is no longer for me. And it doesn't mean that you don't. So it doesn't mean you don't care about that person. It's, as I say all the time, it's not that I don't love you. I just love me more. And that's the thing. How many times have I been in a situation where I stayed somewhere because I chose to love them more than I would love myself? Not so much in a selfish, egotistical way, but from a mental health standpoint, where I'm enduring a person just projecting their pain and I'm just taking it. That's something that I had to learn. It's something that I had to change about myself, because a person is only going to do what I allow them to do. And yeah, it can be scary. It can be scary because you become so accustomed to living and talking to this person, and like an unintentional emotional reliability on a person. And they didn't ask, they didn't ask for it. They didn't sign up for it. It's just how things went based on our love of communication with one another. And over time, there is an unannounced expectation that happens. And it's not that person's fault. It's just, there's a combination of fear, there's a combination of patterns coming together, but no expectations, no entitlement, no ego. That is why I keep that mentality, man, because if there's something that you didn't sign up for, you didn't say that you were going to do this thing, then why am I holding you accountable for something that you never agreed to? And that's something that I've had to learn for myself, over time, especially getting involved with with a young lady and shit like that, because when we get into relationships, our insecurities get revealed. The trauma, the unresolved issues of childhood, the unresolved issues of relationships, all that shit comes out, man. And you do your best to get somebody else to deal with you, because it's like being back with a parent, like we unintentionally make the person that we have an affinity for, like truly have like love for, they become a parent that they didn't ask to be. And that's not, and I believe that's coming from, it's coming from a safe place to do so. You feel safe enough to do that, but it's also a very toxic thing to do, because a grown person is not in charge of another grown person. It's just that person makes you feel so like home, whether that be a toxic home or whether that be a healthy home, that you feel the need to project that. And it's like remembering to keep that in mind and protecting yourself and not projecting your pain onto someone. But yeah, it does happen. It does happen, and we don't even recognize it, man, until we get like detached and look back at things like, damn, man, I really did try to make her my mom, like a perfect version of my mother. I really did try to make him a perfect version of my father, that type of thing. And it's scary. It can be very scary when you realize that there's a little person feeling unloved and waiting to be hugged and picked up inside you, that somehow just takes over your body. And you're not incomplete, you're not broken or anything like that. Like, you were fine long before you met that person. You were fine. But then when emotions get involved, then there's a part of you that you didn't deal with those emotions back then. Now they're trying to reach the surface, and you have to be mindful of that shit and not to project that onto people, man. But some of us, it happens for some of us. It happens for a lot of us when we do that. And remember to have grace with yourself, as we just spoke about in the first topic. But do your best not to project that shit, man. Hold your own. You're an adult, and you will prosper. You just gotta sit with yourself. You gotta be able to sit with those uncomfortable emotions and do everything you can to promote peace and not put forth negativity on others. So with that being said, like that compatibility, man, it's like being at a different stages. Like the whole point of saying, like some heal slower than others is that one may be a little bit more advanced in the sense of like repairing themselves and realizing that they're responsible solely for themselves and nobody else. And we may come into a situation where a person feels like the person that they're talking to is responsible for their happiness or what have you, keeping them, with a smile on their face. And no, get out of here. No, that's not the case. I'm not responsible for putting a fucking smile on your face. You are. If anything, it's recognizing whether or not do we complement each other's life. Do you complement my life? And sometimes the answer is no. Yeah, it can be jaded and it can be blurred, and you can get caught up in the fog of sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, sex can really have you believing, especially if you got sexual compatibility with somebody. Long term, it can blur the line. It can blur the lenses whether or not you guys connect on the other thing. You know what I'm saying? And compatibility is very, very key. And be like, oh man, we argue all the time. But man, he be digging my back out. Damn, should be putting it on me, or whatever your statement is that you say in your mind to your friend group, whatever. But it's really recognizing like that compatibility. And I believe there's a lot of people that we've met in life that we honestly say that we had a love for them, but they weren't necessarily meant to be with us forever. for the long run. They were meant to put you on the next path of where you're headed. And that's okay too. Recognizing that the people that we meet that are not there for the long run, they put us in position for the next phase of our life, and being grateful for what they gave us, the lessons that were taught there, the things they taught us that we wanted in our lives, the things that we didn't want in our life, man, and being okay with that. And keeping in mind that nothing belongs to us, so appreciate everything. Attachment, man. Attachment can really, they say in Buddhism, attachment leads to suffering. So when you want something so bad, but they're going to do what they're going to do anyway, you're going to feel something if you try to fight again, if you go against it. But if you accept what is, then peace can be had. But when we go against the grain and we try to fight, we try to make people do things that they don't want to do, and want them to be a person that they're not, and go against the grain. It's just about accepting that and deciding where that goes into your life. Again, back to compatibility. But the concept that you could love somebody but not meant to be, they're not to be in your life forever. I firmly believe in that. You know what I'm saying? It's just figuring things out for yourself. You gotta be honest with yourself, man. Everybody comes into your life to teach you something. The people you meet in airports, the people you meet at the job, the people you meet, waiting in line at a restaurant, we all play a part in something getting to the next goal. And even sometimes the people that that you tend to get in relationships with, we're not all meant to be there forever. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe anything lasts forever, for that matter. But as far as like a long-term ordeal, it's learning to appreciate the moments, man, the present moment while it exists, and being grateful, being very grateful, because nothing lasts forever. Same thing of like, so being very very conscious of what is for you and what isn't for you. What makes you feel like home and what makes you feel like you want to run away from home. Those are the key points. I'm sure that you're going to go through your set of struggles with people, by all means. But you know what you're willing to tolerate in your life and what you're not going to tolerate in your life, and that's the big key. And a lot of people, for fear of being alone, will tolerate shit that they do not want in their life, versus being alone. And again, I'll stand by the statement of I'd rather have peace alone than chaos with you, and I think that's really the big thing, the big kicker. How much projection is being done on either side, from a healthy standpoint or unhealthy standpoint. And some people rather live in the chaos, and I respect that, to each its own. And that's really all I say about that, to each its own. But yeah, I definitely believe in that concept that you can love somebody and still not be meant to be together in the long run. If you started a talk show, who would your first guest be? My first guest on my talk show would be none other than Brene Brown. Yes, there is much that I would love to say to Miss Brown for the knowledge that she learned, went through school, multiple schools to have, and then wanted to share with the world. And I don't know, I just want to thank her publicly, like in front of the world, for what she did for me when I was at one of the darkest stages of my life back in like 2020. And that's where I, was introduced to her work and the books that she wrote and things like that. I would just love to talk about Texas with her. Talk about Texas food, just lifestyle, talk about them Texas thick women. And obviously she ain't gonna talk about that, but being able to just sit with her and just really get a glimpse of where she is right now, where she came from, and just really just express the amount of gratitude that I have for what she did for my mental, how she shifted my perspective on many things. And hell, if I could have it, Don Miguel Ruiz would be right behind her. If I could have them both on the couch at the same time, for what he did with the 4 Agreements, the mastery of love, the mastery of self, and his, I think his son wrote that. But the Toltec wisdom in general, just those two in particular really stand out to me. But yeah, if it was the first guest that on my show when I'm starting a talk show, it would certainly be Brene Brown. How do men show love without saying it? I'm here, ain't I? I mean, that's one way. Chris Rock has that joke or whatever. Like, what that means is he thought about leaving your ass, but he decided that he was going to stay. I mean, that's one way of, I say that jokingly, that's one way a man can show that, he loves you without saying it. That, he's still here and he's been putting up with your shit. Now, his boundaries might not be strong, and that's why he's putting up with shit. I don't want to be in a position where I'm putting up with shit. I want to be able to say I'm enjoying my life with whoever, I decide to be with. But how a man shows love without saying it. What he does is he looks out for you. And I'm talking about a level of protection that you ain't seen before. Probably never seen before in your fucking life. Because it wasn't really taught where you come from, because it wasn't taught where you came from. But when you learn a certain way of showing love, how a man shows love, in a sense of masculinity, moving you away from the street, that is without saying anything to you, moving you away from the street, him walking on the outside, that is how a man shows love. To sit with you as you bear news that you don't necessarily want to hear. I'm not gonna call it bad news because, good and bad is very much perspective. But sits with you, doesn't say anything at all. So just sits with you through the process to show you that you're not alone. That is how a man shows love without saying it. When he sends something that's beneficial to you, whether that be through a YouTube link, iTunes song, or what have you, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how, like, if he knows that there's something you've been mentioning recently that might be of assistance to you, and he just went ahead and took care of it, that is how a man shows love without saying it. That to me is, I believe that's it. When you just take care of shit, you don't ask questions, you just do it. Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. That is a way that a man can show love without saying it. The old school method of showing love without saying it, and it goes to a lot of fathers back in the day. They went to work. They worked crazy fucking hours just so that you could stay up all night to play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega. The lights stayed on. They worked 8 to 10 hour shifts to come home and still cook dinner for you and the rest of the family. Is how a man shows love without saying it. To come get you from a party that you didn't want to be with, that you want to be at anymore, at odd times, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing your curfew is 12 o'clock, and they come pick you up to ensure your safety. That is how a man shows love without saying it. When they hold your hand walking across a busy street, or just somewhere in traffic, that is how a man shows love without saying it. He leads with it doesn't even require much talking to lead. You know what I'm saying? But that's what a man does. That's how a man shows love without saying it. When he just shows up. He shows up for something that's deemed to be important to you. Whether that's a birthday party, whether that's a +1 at a wedding, whether that's going to a Christmas party, whether that is just showing up at an event. Doesn't require much talking, but the simple fact that he made a point to be there for said event, that is how a man shows love without saying it. And it doesn't come with like, I really didn't want to be here, but I'm gonna be, to show it doesn't give off that aura that I'm forced to be here. He understands just to be there. Yeah. He understands the importance it is to you just to be there. And to bring you something like recognizing in conversation that you said that this was a favorite candy or some shit like that, and to show up, or favorite drink or what have you, and shows up with that without expecting anything in return. That is how a man shows love without saying it. There are a plethora of ways how men show love without saying it. Waking up to breakfast in your room. Might not even wanted what was on the damn plate. Speaking from experience. But that is how a man shows love. But it's one of the ways how a man shows love without saying it. To sit with you through some tough shit. Whether that be stranded. Whether you're somewhere stranded. And they just show up and ride through it with you. That is how a man shows love without saying it. To go to a movie of something that is clearly out of his comfort zone, something that he would never ever find himself watching alone, but because it's something that you were interested in, that is how a man shows love without saying it. I don't know how many times, what is it? Going to, like taking your kids to see, children movies, and women do the same thing. So moms, how women show love without saying it. The same thing. It can be, it's universal for that. But in conversation, studying what you're sharing with him, and then creating a moment, an adventure, a date, a journey with you from that. You didn't have to tell him what you wanted to do. As far as like asking him to go on like a date, he already created it. That is how a man shows love. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that a man that doesn't do this does not love you. But what I'm saying is the ones that do find that opportunity to pay attention and to show that type of love, that you're willing to go through the motions of that and setting that up. You know what I mean? That to me is how a man shows. Making, constantly watching, like being out in public and watching the people that you love and value to ensure that there is no harm coming to them. You know what I mean? Like being in a safe enough distance where they don't feel like you're hovering over them, but you're still watching them from afar. That's how a man shows love without saying a word, without saying anything. And a list of other things, I'm sure we can talk about this all day, but I'm going to end it here. That's what I believe. Those are some ways, not always, but these are some of the ways that a man says I love you without saying a word. But with that being said, I'm going to say a few words now as a man And I want to tell each and every one of you, I appreciate the time you took to sit through this episode, listen to me just bear my innermost thoughts and various perspectives on different things that you possibly agree with and possibly don't. But you sat through it. You enjoyed yourself just as much as I enjoy you guys listening. For however long that you do listen, whether that be the first 10 seconds or whether it be the entire show. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe, the typical shit that influencers say on platforms. But thank you guys, honestly, truly from the bottom of my heart for riding this wave with me for the last 6 years, almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. But I'm Romy Mac. This is Ask Rome, and I'm out. Good night, kids.